Hey guys, Tim here at JK Boots. Today we're going to be tearing down this pair of boots right here. We're going to see how they wore after a couple years out on the fire line. We're going to see how well they did, look in the inside, the insole, the midsole, tear them all up. We're going to see just how well JK Boots last. So let's get to it. Grabs that washer and just pull. This is an iron shoe nail. The stitching isn't coming out. Look how deep that screw goes in. That's amazing. So before we dive in and start tearing them up, I just kind of want to look at the wear and tear of the boot just kind of from the outside. So these are 3 years old. They were worn on the fire line, probably a lot, if not every day. And just kind of first thing that I'm seeing just right away is just their form and their shape. I just love how like they're not blown out to one particular side, or you know, they're not all crooked and deformed. Like they've held up very well. Like that just means quality leather. That means quality lasting. And they were very comfortable and form fit probably for this entire portion of 3 years. Obviously leather changes and molds and breaks in, but like that's one of the first things that stands out to me. He also took very good care of them. I can tell that the leather was conditioned. I can tell that it was cleaned, it was oiled. I'm not seeing crazy cracks. I'm seeing no blown out threads, no blown out stitching, soles not blown off, coming off. You can even see some of the original stitching. I mean, obviously it's been worn down a lot. Those soles or those treads are flat, but like that is really, really good. The tongue is not ripped. The tongue stitching is still good. Backstay counter is not blown out. I'm on both of them, not just one. No hooks or pieces of hardware have like blown through or worn through the leather. They've just worn down themselves because it's brass. But that's also awesome and really impressive. Looking at the soles, so you can literally see he wore these hard. I mean, those screws are visible, and those are screwed down into the cap, and they're actually not visible when the boots come brand new. So that means he wore down this heel so far that the screw heads are visible. I mean, this is like totally flat. He's got like no tread left. He probably could have gotten away with a resole in here. In the leather, he's gonna do a bison lower and a different sole. So probably there was a bit of that part to play in the decision where he probably wants a little bit of a different leather, different sole, but like overall, super impressive. And that's why JK Boots are the best. That's why we make the best boots on the planet, is because they can last in a crazy tough environment like wildland firefighting for 3 years and still come back and get resold or rebuilt and then go back out on the fire line. There's not another boot on the market that can do that. That is what's up. That's why we do what we do. So to get started with our rebuild, we need to put our boot into a last, or a last into a boot, and put that on a boot jack so that it can be stable and like we can actually tear it down. This is not the actual size of the boot. You don't need one to actually fit the size because we're tearing the boot down. Really, you just need something small enough that the boot can stand on. It can be on the jack. So we just got a pair of lasts that we use as tear down lasts, and so that's what we're gonna do. So last goes on the jack. We break it. I'm gonna slide the boot on, and we're gonna get started. So first thing when we're doing a teardown is we're gonna start from the heel, and I'm gonna do it, you know, slower and kind of more fun so we can examine it. But normally we would just knock off right here the base and throw the whole heel off. But I kind of want to go separate between cap and base because I want to look at it and I want to see how did it wear, how did the nails clinch and hold the base down, how did the cap nails with the washers hold the cap down. Like, let's see like how good this thing actually did. So let's pull these screws out first. Heads of the screws are pretty much flat. Don't want to kill my bit, so we're gonna go like this. There's screw number one. See, it tore the washer out. That means it was really in there, and that screw penetrated that washer exactly in there and was just holding that down really, really well. So that's cool to see. There's the second screw, same thing, just tore the washer out with it. It was holding that heel down with the washer. And then there's a third screw right here in the center, but I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna pull this cap off. We're gonna start from the back. As I pull, you're gonna start to see nails. See the washers right there? Every hole in this cap has a washer, and every nail that goes in, it goes through that washer and it sucks the cap down. There you go. Right there. See some of the nails as I was tearing it, the washer stayed. You can see every single nail went through a washer, and it goes to that washer, and it the nail head, it grabs that washer and just boom, sucks it down. And if you look at this base, you can literally see the area of the base where there was glue, it's clean. It's still like leather color. And that just shows how well the bonding was, because not only do we nail it down, we glue it down as well. Here's the mate to this. Look, there's no delamination. There's no delamination around the cap. Like, that's amazing for 3 years. I'm only seeing like a little bit like right here up front. And this proves that, like, that's how good the job was done. That's very quality. That means that the glue bonded extremely well with the cap and the leather. And then on top of that, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 nails. It's insane. And they have washers. So it's not just nail heads, it's literally washers. So there's cap number 1. Let's just pull the rest of these nails out. I'm going to collect all the pieces as we go, and we'll see what we've got left. Okay, here we go. So we're going to pull this base off. So normally we'll just always start right here in this corner. Basic flathead screwdriver gets in there. Going to kind of leverage this thing out. And there we go. That last one's a little tough. There we go. Look at that. Glue. Glue is bonding between the rubber outsole and the leather heel base. And look at all these nails. They all clinched. So the way that I know they all clinched, here's a perfect example. This is an iron shoe nail. As it penetrated the leather heel base, it went through the leather heel base, it went through all these layers, and it hit the steel plate on the last, and then it clinched. You can see the little tip hit it and clinched. This base was totally secure on this boot, and it was totally holding it down. If you look at the mate, look, you will never, like, you'll never rip this apart. That's 3 years of like tough firefighter wear. That's why our boots are overbuilt. This is so ridiculously overbuilt, and it's overbuilt for that guy who's doing that crazy extreme job. Like, our boots don't wear out. That's because they're so overbuilt, and you can see, like, this is why. It's because of these materials, and it's because of these processes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 iron nails holding this leather heel base down, in addition to the 11 nails and 3 screws that were holding down the rubber cap, plus the layers of glue. I'm getting winded talking about it. It's crazy. Okay, normally because it's a rebuild, we would actually start right here at the midsole and rip this all off, but for the sake of showing you what's inside, we're going to pretend like it's a resole. We're going to take it apart piece by piece. So let's start with the sole. So let me get in here. Kind of want to open this up a little bit. And by tearing off the outsole, this is a Vibram fire-rated outsole, we're going to get to see the leather midsole that the whole boot kind of stands on and hinges on. We're going to see how good was the bottoming, how well did the nails clinch, how good's the stitching. And watch as I tear this off. See, immediately as I hit the stitching, boom, it stops. Look, the stitching isn't coming out. The rubber is tearing before the stitches come out. That's awesome. So that means that after, it only starts to go where the stitching has worn right there. After 3 whole years, I've still got stitching that's holding the sole down. That's awesome. So I'm gonna transfer this belt over. In the sole, I've also got screws. We've got 3, 6, 9 screws holding the sole down. So in the case of if the stitching fails and the glue fails, you've still got screws that won't fail. Literally crazy overbuilt. This is how hard of a time I'm having tearing this down after 3 years of wear. Last little touch. Boom. Here's the outsole, Vibram outsole right there. See how it looks clean right here? You've only just got dirt right here on the outskirts. Again, that signifies really good bonding. Really, really, really good bonding. We've got some screws that didn't even pull out. I'm gonna have to pull them out manually. Look how deep that screw goes into the leather. So if you've got glue that fails, stitching that fails, you won't have screws that fail. 3 failure points for this sole to come off. That's crazy. That's crazy. So many boots out there today are just literally sit on glue. They're just bonded. They don't have stitching. They don't have even a welt. Like, it's literally just on glue. We've got 3 different, securing points for the sole to the boot. That's insane. There's no dust here. There's no grime here. We're only seeing it around the edges right here, where there was likely some kind of delamination, so it got in over time. But right here around the heel, something that I really love, this goes to show the principle that I was just talking about earlier, is when the leather heel base gets on here, it so locks in this part of the boot because you've got so much support here. You've got these bottoming nails, which we'll talk about soon. And then these clinch nails that go through the heel base, when they go in here, it really just like sucks this area down and secures it really tight. So again, you can see the original glue that was put on back when the outsole was glued to this leather midsole. It's clean right here because the bonding was so good and this was so tight. You've just got the dirt and dust right here on these edges of delamination. That kind of same pattern follows all the way around the edges. Really, really impressive. That's like awesome. The next thing that I see is the bottoming. So the bottoming is the process of these nails getting pounded here into the leather midsole and going through the leather midsole, through the leather insole, and also going into the boot and hitting this steel plate and securing the leather midsole to the boot. That is a very crucial part of like the boot building process. Basically, the whole boot is it sits on the leather midsole. The leather midsole is like the foundation of the boot. It's kind of like you would pour foundation for a house. The leather midsole plays a very similar role. The whole boot kind of sits on that leather midsole. So this is a really, really key part. And as I look at this, I'm not seeing nails coming out. I'm not seeing the leather midsole because of bad bottoming, like coming off. I'm literally, doing this, like I can't pull it off. That means throughout these whole 3-year period of time of super demanding job, this incredibly quality leather midsole, this very quality bottoming design and bottoming job that we do held this boot together, and it stood that test of time. And just for fun, I'm gonna grab a nail puller here. Let's pull one of these out and just see how, did it clinch? Like, did it do what it was supposed to do? Here, let me pull this one out right here. Look at that. See that little edge, that little tip? It did exactly what it was supposed to do. This nail entered the leather midsole, pierced the leather midsole, pierced the insole, and hit the steel plate and clinched back into the insole. And it held its form, it held its shape, it did what it was supposed to do for 3 years. That's awesome. Now what we gotta do is we gotta continue our tear down. We're gonna tear off this leather midsole here. We're gonna start from right here from the heel portion. We're gonna grab and we're just gonna pull. And just as I'm pulling, again, super impressed with what I'm seeing. I'm just gonna pause for effect here. Look at how these nails all clinched. Clinched, 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 clinched. This is like prime time, super quality bottoming. I haven't even torn this whole midsole off. I want you to see this. Look at this, clean. Clean, right here. I understand that this part right here is dirty. Look at the inside, the internal, that's the shank. That is the same way the shank looked when it was installed 3 years ago. Look at the other side of the leather midsole. That's the original glue which the leather midsole was installed on. You've just got dirt right here along the edges. That's amazing. This is like overbuilt, crazy overbuilt. That's amazing. That in such a difficult, demanding job for a 3-year period, this is what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing right now this boot filled with dust or filled with dirt. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a clean, well put together, quality product, just insanely overbuilt for what it's being used for. As I get here to this portion where the vamp connects to the leather midsole, because the stitching is so good, I'm gonna right now literally tear a portion of the vamp, because that's the only way for me to keep going. And we're doing a rebuild, so there's gonna be a new vamp and a new counter, so I'm not worried about it. But you can see I have to move the strap back over here, and you'll just see just how difficult it is to pull this off. I'm right now tearing through 8-ounce thick leather, and I'm having to like actually work it. And I'm using pliers. I'm having to use leverage. Boom. This is pretty cool. That's that design right there. That's that clean, clean, clean. Love it. Okay, going into the next phase, this part we just got to take out some of the internal pieces. This part's pretty cool too, because we get to see our leather cover shank, we get to see the lasting, we get to see the leather lining, we get to see the stitching, we get to see some of the bottoming nails, and we'll see the arch support. And as we open this up, we're going to see the counter and then the insole of the boot. So right here, this is the cover shank. Again, what I'm noticing, clean on the inside, not full of dust, not full of grime. I'm seeing the leather lining, quality job done on the lining. It's literally still being held together. Like I have to pull this up with a screwdriver. Look at that glue, that's bonding, like that's awesome, that's quality work. I'll start here with the leather shank. I'm gonna pull this leather shank off. So that's the leather shank coming off. Here's our leather arch support. We're gonna pull this out. There's that. So we've got our leather shank, we've got a leather arch support. That's out. Now I want to pull these nails out because they're gonna kind of be in my way here. They're gonna bottom me. These are some of the bottoming nails. Next, I want to get in here and I want to pull the counter out, because we're gonna have to take this counter pocket off for the rebuild, because we just need the upper. So I'm gonna start in here with my screwdriver. I'm gonna get in here. I'm just gonna start tearing this. The nails that you see here, these are lasting tacks. So these are the lasting tacks that are installed when you're lasting the heel. See how I'm not pulling any of them out as I pull the leather off? That just means the same thing, that they clinched in there. In this entire 3-year period, they were in there holding their position. Amazing. Super, super good. I've got 2 nails here that are gonna be in the way as I take off this seam, so I'm gonna pull them out right here. These are 2 tacks. That's gone. And that one too. Okay. Next thing I'm gonna need is, I'm gonna need a small blade, and I'm gonna get in here, and I'm gonna start just tearing this counter pocket off. And I wanna show you guys this stitching. This is a really cool part here. For all of JK's boots, all the boots we make, we use something called Technora fire thread. This is this is literally the best thread that you can possibly get. It's heat resistant, fire resistant, meets NFPA standards. This stuff is so tough. It literally dulls our blades as we're cutting, and that's what I'm cutting right now. That's why I'm having such a hard time. I'm having to literally like pull it back, and then with this blade, the serrated blade, I'm going in here like one section at a time, like slicing it. This is the thread that is used for all fire boots, and instead of just putting it for fire boots, we just decided to put it on all of our boots, no matter what. It is ridiculously tough. It's very, very strong. It is flame proof, heat proof. It doesn't melt. Welders use it. Firefighters obviously use it. It is just ridiculously overbuilt and over-designed. And it's very expensive. And we just decided that, you know what, we want to have the best possible product on the market, so we're going to put on every single pair of boots we make. And that's it right there. It is really hard to cut. We've got 3 rows on the counter pocket. This is a counter pocket that was rough out, so that's the smooth side. Clean on the inside. Again, super well done work. And here we have the counter pocket. The counter itself, excuse me. This is an oak tan counter that is installed during the process of lasting. Look at that, that's thick, actual oak tan leather right there. And this wraps around your heel counter, and this is what keeps that form and keeps that shape. A lot of other, boot companies that we won't mention, they don't even use leather. Sometimes they don't even have a counter. A lot of times they literally have plastic or carton or styrofoam. That's cheap, crappy stuff. This is legitimate oak tan leather sitting around your heel, keeping you ankle support. You're not going to sprain an ankle in these boots, giving you that, helping you support your feet, keep you comfortable, keep you safe. This is another reason why these boots are so ridiculously overbuilt, because of this heel counter right here. Going further, these tacks are still in here. That's how well they clinched. So here I am, I'm gonna have to pull them out with a nail puller. They didn't just come out on their own. And every single one of them, see how they've clinched in, clinched fully, hit that steel plate, pierced that insole, and totally clinched. These are some more lasting tacks that I'm gonna have to get out. Yeah, these were built 3 years ago. It's very possible that I'm the one that lasted these, because I was doing a lot of lasting during that time. And if it is me, there should be a signature on the insole, and we'll check for that. It would be my initials, because we used to initial our work when it was a much slower, smaller time. The leather is in really good shape. This is the lining portion right here. This is the actual vamp of the boot, and you've got the upper. This is the counter area of the upper. Nothing's rotten is something that I'm seeing. Nothing has like significantly deteriorated or fallen apart. And I think a big portion of that is firstly because all the material that we use is leather. We're not using any synthetics. So we have a synthetic squeak pad, which is between the insole and the midsole, but that's on purpose so that your boots never squeak. That's the only portion of the boot that is not leather. Except for mine, it's like, let's say, stitching, thread, nails, and glue. But in terms of what the actual boot consists of, it's all leather. We're not using cardboard. There's no styrofoam. There's no polyester. There's no the lining isn't fabric, it's leather. And I think that plays a huge role into just how, again, overbuilt the boots are. Even starting from the material. The material is it's over-engineered. The material is over-engineered. Like, this is such thick leather. No one in the industry does boots from as thick a leather as we do. That's why our boots are so unique, and why these elite professionals like wildland firefighters use our product, and only can use our product because of how well it performs, because the job that they do demands that it does that well. And so even just starting from the material, you can see that it's reflected in the process of wearing the boot after 3 years. The next thing that I think really stands out is just this construction style that we do, this old world technique: bottoming, lasting, stitching, stitch down construction, the glues we use, the bondages we use. Like, it contributes all to such a well put together product, and that's being, we're seeing the fruit of that by tearing this boot down that's been worn for 3 years on the fire line, of how well it's put together. Just really impressive, and it just feels good to know that this is the type of product that we're putting out. We're putting out overbuilt boots that meet those standards and actually exceed them. It's super cool. So what I got to do here is, to keep going, is I have to take off all the lining that's connected to the insole so I can pull the insole out. So we need to separate this lining from the insole. So I'm doing that now with this screwdriver, just to help me pry this off, because the glue is so strong. There's the insole. Let's take a second to talk about the insole. This is a 9-iron oak tan insole, and this is 3 years of tough wear. And look at that, it's in one piece. Here's the sock lining that was glued over it originally. It's in one piece. You just don't see that in mass-produced footwear. You don't see that in any other footwear, where you've got one insole that stood the test of time. Look how it adapted to the shape of that arch. That's amazing. That's arch support, heel support, ankle support. That's everyday comfort. That is really special. Okay. What we've got to do next is we've got to separate the vamp from the upper. Because in a rebuild, the only thing that stays original is the upper. We have a fully new vamp, a fully new counter pocket, and then a fully, obviously, new internals of the boot. So to do that, I'm gonna have a razor blade here, and I'm gonna start in the blucher section. I have to separate this seam here. I've gotta follow it and separate it at the tongue, and then obviously do it on the flip side here. And once I've done that, I'll have a separated upper, the original upper, and to that we're gonna sew on the new parts and pieces, and we're gonna finish the rebuild. So let's get started. Usually what I'll do is I will set it up sideways on this last, and we just have to be really careful not to cut the original part. I can cut this up all day long because I'm throwing this away, so I'm not worried about that. It's this that I want to keep safe. Sometimes what I like to do is actually like to flip this over, and I like to start here just to kind of get a couple first incisions in. I'm going to cut that first line. And a lot of this is just done by feel. What I'm doing is I'm angling the blade up because I know if I cut this, I'm not worried about it. And I'm also kind of just peeling it back to give me some space there to get my blade in. I just want to get those first couple layers out. Boom, there we go. So we just began the process right there. So I opened up the first couple rows when I flipped it over, and now I've got it open. So I can really just see what I'm doing now, and I can keep going. I had to switch blades here because that one was getting a little bit dull. So we're gonna keep going. There's the tongue, how it connects to the blucher and the vamp right there, so it's a key part. Did that really well, didn't cut anything. And I'm literally just going stitch by stitch, especially on the tongue. And I can cut this vamp all day long, I'm not worried about it. What I'm really concerned about is I just don't want to damage the tongue. And the entire time I'm literally just applying pressure and pulling the tongue back to reveal some stitching and cutting it. I'm going to stop about halfway there. I'm going to start on the other side over here, and I'll just meet in the middle. It's a little more comfortable that way. Same process. There we go. Boom. There we go. That is the separated vamp. Separated vamp, lining, vamp, that is the piece. And here is an upper. So this right here is an upper. Tongue, bluchers, backstay, quarters. This is an upper that we are going to rebuild and put on a new vamp, new counter pocket, new counter, new insole, new midsole, new outsole, new lining, new threads, new stitching, new nails, and rebuild this boot so it can go on for another 3 or 4 years and go fight more fires. This vamp is pretty cool. I definitely want to take a look at this. Look at the lining. So that's the lining in the vamp. So around your foot, you've got 2 layers right there. That is quality leather lining. That's how it's done. Overbuilt boots, over-engineered, over-designed. I mean, that's top-notch. You just don't see this anywhere else. And that's why these boots can last for 3 years on the fire line. And then a guy sends them in and we rebuild them and he keeps wearing them. All right, guys, thanks for watching. That is a rebuild on a full boot right there. And that's how it's done. And that's a little bit of an examination of the quality of JK boots, the quality of material, the quality of design, and just how ridiculously overbuilt these boots are for that elite professional, for that hardcore enthusiast, for that job that is so tough, so ridiculous, and so extreme that only JK boots can meet them. Thanks for watching. We hope to see the other videos. Take care.